Munich, Germany, was the birthplace of the Nazi Party. It was here in 1935 that Hitler led a parade to celebrate the anniversary of the party's failed coup to seize power in Bavaria. He placed a wreath at the spot where 16 Nazi patriots were killed in the street. Afterward, Hitler would pay silent homage to the fallen dead in 2 giant mausoleums dedicated to their memory. Later that day, Hitler solemnly declared Munich to be the heart of the Third Reich. Berlin was where the Nazi Party came to power. It was here where Hitler was sworn in as Führer and wielded supreme executive and legislative authority. He called Berlin the brain of the Third Reich. Nuremberg, however, was its soul. It was here where cheering crowds awaited his arrival, and massive, week-long rallies celebrated the party's future. It was also where the Führer, standing atop a raised dais, told the nation that Germany would rule the world. And it was on Nuremberg's narrow, cobbled streets where Germany's medieval past was forever linked to its Nazi future. In colorful parades, men, women, and children would revive Germanic folklore and myth to herald in a new and glorious age under Nazi leadership. Hitler was portrayed as the true keeper, guardian, and heroic reformer of the Holy Roman Empire's imperial city. And into this city, from the plundered imperial treasury in Vienna, Austria, Hitler would bring Christendom's most sacred treasures. There was the jewel-encrusted imperial crown, the golden orb of world rulership, the imperial cross and book of Gospels, the jeweled purse of St. Stephen, a reliquary with cloth used to wash Jesus' feet, and the holy lance, or spear of destiny. These were the crown jewels of the Holy Roman Empire, what Hitler called the First Reich, and what he and his inner circle considered property of the Third and equally Holy Reich. The most ancient artifact, the Holy Lance, was linked to the most significant moment of the Christ story, when Jesus, bleeding and battered, hung from the cross, and a Roman centurion drove his spear into Jesus' right side. The lance had been passed from one emperor to another for 750 years. According to sacred tradition, whoever possessed it, who wore the Holy Crown, held the destiny of mankind in their hands. Constantine kept the spear by his side as he began to build the new Rome. Emperor Charlemagne triumphantly carried it during military campaigns, and Frederick Barbarossa took it with him to the Crusades. Napoleon coveted the spear but failed to make it his own. Adolf Hitler would finally take possession of the spear, and with it, he believed, the destiny of the world. It was as if King Arthur had brought Excalibur to Camelot. But by February 1945, the Reich was collapsing. Hitler's war was nearly over. In France and Belgium, captured German soldiers were telling fantastic stories of hidden stockpiles of Nazi plunder. The most disturbing claims spoke of something more far-reaching, a covert network of civilians who would use this treasure to resurrect the horrors of the Third Reich. Could such stories be true? Had Hitler laid the groundwork for a Fourth Reich? As the Allied army prepared to cross the Rhine River to invade the Nazi heartland, U.S. Third Army interrogator Walter Horn came forward with startling new information. What Horn had learned was as remarkable as his own personal journey to the war's front lines. A decade earlier, at Heinrich Himmler's headquarters in Berlin, names had been compiled of those suitable for recruitment into the Reich's elite ranks. Among those considered desirable officer material was 25-year-old Horn. The son and grandson of Lutheran pastors, he could trace his genealogy back through 4 generations of German ancestry. An exceptional student, he spoke 5 foreign languages and had earned a doctorate in medieval art history. A dedicated mountaineer and athlete, he had been considered a contender for the German javelin team at the 1936 Berlin Olympics. Of special interest to Nazi recruiters, Horn's classmates had joined Heinrich Himmler's Ahnenerbe, an elite think tank of soldier scholars dedicated to studying Aryan man's accomplishments. Among their ranks were noted archaeologists and historians who were sent on looting missions to collect the world's great art and antiquities. Horn was not to be recruited. He wanted no part of what he considered a perversion of science and history in support of Aryan myth. He fled to the United States and obtained a teaching position at UC Berkeley. When the U.S. joined the war effort, he enlisted as an interrogator in General Patton's U.S. Third Army. While questioning captured prisoners in Belgium, Horn had been told the location of the Reich's very own treasure room. Beneath Nuremberg's ancient castle was a secret bunker. Into the sandstone bedrock was carved a tunnel which descended some 200 feet underground. At the end of the tunnel was a 3,000-square-foot concrete chamber with 5 separate storage vaults. The most secure was a bank vault with a 2-foot-thick steel door, where Hitler kept the plundered crown jewels, the ancient symbols of Germanic world monarchy. Could Horn's information be correct? Could the Allied army capture the Nuremberg bunker before the Nazis could remove its priceless treasure? Nuremberg would pay dearly for its participation in World War II. Allied air squadrons in 11 bombing missions delivered 14,000 tons of high explosives on the ancient city, an area no larger than a London suburb. More bombs would be dropped on Nuremberg than on any city in world history. The German army and city militia fought back with a vengeance, but without Reich air support, there was very little they could do to protect the fatherland from the Allied bomber streams. Tens of thousands of men, women, and children were killed. An estimated 67,000 homes and buildings were leveled, and some 46,000 partially destroyed or seriously damaged. And this was just a prelude to the April 1945 invasion by the U.S. Army. Upwards of 5,000 troops with 10,000 in reserve went on the attack, fighting block by block, door to door, to reach the ancient medieval inner city. Captain Paul Peterson and his E Company commando team were assigned to secure the Horn bunker. Never had they invaded a hostile city the size of Nuremberg, where an estimated 7,000 veteran German infantry and 10,000 Reich laborers and Hitler Youth lay in wait on narrow, unfamiliar streets amid tall buildings. Nuremberg never surrendered. The German defenders either put down their arms or were killed when fighting ended on April 20th, Hitler's birthday. Out of a pre-war population of nearly 500,000 people, only 160,000 residents were left in the city. Peterson's men located and then broke into Hitler's hidden treasure room, right where Horn said they would find it. Inside was the Holy Lance. But as investigators later discovered, the imperial crown and jewel-encrusted coronation relics that traditionally accompanied it were missing. Where had Hitler's plundered treasures gone? Who had taken them, and why? Could a covert network of neo-Nazi agents have removed them from the vault before Peterson's men arrived in Nuremberg? Were U.S. servicemen involved in their removal? Generals Eisenhower and Patton turned to Lieutenant Horn for answers. To succeed in his mission and recover the missing relics, Horn would have to travel to war-torn Germany, from Nuremberg's Palace of Justice where Hitler's henchmen were imprisoned, to the rolling hills north of the Rhine River. He would have to confront his former German classmates, men who had subverted their scholarly research to legitimize Hitler's theories of Aryan supremacy and the master race. Horn would have to examine the hidden mysteries of the Hitler cult, where Aryan man's mythic past was to become the template for its Nazi future, where Heinrich Himmler, the high priest of Nazi mysticism, had used Germany's medieval past as a lethal weapon against the living. He would trace the removal of the Holy Relics to a modern-day brotherhood of Teutonic Knights, secret agents fighting a war for the soul of occupied Germany. One war had ended, and another had begun. Somewhere, hidden in the rubble of the fallen Third Reich, were the symbols of a Fourth Reich. Dr. Horn's confidential reports were kept classified for 3 decades by military intelligence and are now revealed in Hitler's Holy Relics by Sidney Kirkpatrick, published by Simon & Schuster in May 2010.